The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Oh goodness, welcome back to the show everyone. It's Saturday, February 21st, 2026. And I am sitting here with a very generous pour of Chardonnay because if I have to read one more headline about a progressive mayor visiting a criminal in the hospital, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm Diane Albright, your Mama Bear Patriot, and we are diving into a very busy, very action-packed news cycle today.
Diane, the frequencies are spiking. I can feel the shift in the tectonic plates of the deep state. I'm Ray the Hammer, Miller, coming to you live with the documents that the globalists would literally kill to keep off the air. We've got a solid lineup today, a fascinating mix of institutional surgery and constitutional showdowns.
Exactly. And if you missed us yesterday, you missed a great show. We talked about those Cuban deportation flights finally clearing out the convicts and the launch of TrumpRx.gov, which is already making the insurance middlemen cry in their silk pajamas.
They hate it. They hate that you can get your medicine without paying for their third vacation home. But look at the board today, Diane. The real story is the great cleanup, and it starts at Langley.
Oh, here we go. The Hammer's favorite topic. Tell the people what's happening at the CIA, Ray.
Listen to me. This is the 1977 moment, but on steroids. John Ratcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard have initiated the total dismissal of 21 senior officers specifically involved in DEIA programs, diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Central Intelligence Agency.
Oh, give me a break.
No, I'm serious. They were more worried about the inclusive climate of the office than they were about the fact that the cartels are using drone swarms to map our infrastructure. It's a parasite that's been feeding on our national security, and Ratcliffe just pulled the plug. They've offered a voluntary buyout to the entire workforce.
Is that right? The whole agency?
Every single person. Agree to the new mission or take your 8 months of pay and benefits and walk away. They're realigning the agency towards aggressive anti-China operations and treating the cartels as fallen terrorist organizations, which they are.
Right.
Mac Warner is over there in the Senate screaming until he's blue in the face about analytic revision. Well, honey, when the analysis is a partisan hit piece disguised as intelligence, it needs to be revised. The DOJ even changed their banner yesterday. Did you see it?
Oh, I saw it. It actually looks like a Department of Justice now. And I love seeing Janine Pirro over there making the swamp rats sweat. They're already calling for investigations into her because she's actually, prosecuting people who break the law.
It's a revolutionary concept.
It really is. And speaking of things that make sense, look at the EPA, Ray. I know you've been tracking Lee Zeldin like a hawk.
Zeldin is the angel of energy dominance, Diane. Listen to me. Yesterday, they repealed the 2024 mercury and air toxics mandates. Those rules were a strangulation device. They were designed by the previous administration to literally regulate coal out of existence.
Right.
By reverting to the 2012 standards, they're saving utilities and taxpayers $670 million a year.
Wow.
And that's just the direct cost. It doesn't account for the grid stability. The Tennessee Valley Authority, the nation's largest public utility, just voted unanimously to drop renewables as a priority. They've got 4 new Trump appointees on the board, and they said no more.
Exactly.
They're keeping the Cumberland and Kingston coal plants open because they realize the AI revolution needs actual, power. And then the Pentagon airlifts a nuclear microreactor from California to Utah.
Is that right?
A 5-megawatt nuclear reactor in the air, moving like it's a piece of luggage. We are entering the era of mobile energy dominance, where we don't have to wait for a decades-long permit process to power a town or a military base. It's a lion diet for the American grid.
I love it. It's just common sense. If you need power, you build power. Stop apologizing for having a first world civilization. But look, we've got to talk about what's happening in the cities because, Ray, you were looking at the NYC numbers and they are, well, they're exactly what we expected from a radical mayor.
Zoran Mamdoni is an agent of the destruction matrix, Diane. Listen to me. 50 days in, and he's already shelved the plan to hire 5,000 new NYPD officers, despite a staffing crisis that is literally hollowing out the force.
Are you kidding me?
He's visiting people who try to stab cops and calling for the charges to be dropped. He's emboldening the predator class. Bias incidents in New York are up 152% year over year. The subway is a laboratory for progressive failure.
Honey, no, it's a disaster zone. I wouldn't let my kids near that subway system if you paid me in gold bars.
But the federal government's moving in. HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, is finally pushing to force mixed-status immigration households off of federal housing aid. No more tax dollars for people who broke the law to get here while our own people are struggling.
It's the send them home movement.
Exactly. The Northeast is rising up. New Jersey, New York, they're seeing the reality check and they're realizing that the welfare state model is a suicide pact. You can't have a welfare state and open borders. It's a mathematical impossibility.
Right. It's about time we prioritize the American citizen. I'm tired of being told it's un-American to want my own tax dollars to go to my own community. And look at the schools, too. Texas is showing us how it's done with these education freedom accounts.
$1 billion.
$1 billion, roughly $10,500 per student. Over 1,400 private schools have already opted in. Parents are finally escaping the zip code prisons of the state-run school system. And of course, the courts in New Hampshire are trying to fight back by vacating DEI restrictions. But the tide is turning. The great correction is here.
It's a biblical shift, Diane. And that leads us to the main event, the showdown of the century, the Tariff Earthquake.
Oh, please, this story has everything. The Supreme Court, constitutional theory, and a president who just doesn't take no for an answer. Let's break this down because it's the most important thing happening right now.
The robes thought they could stop the engine, Diane. Yesterday, the court ruled 6-3 and Learning Resources v. Trump, and they basically said the president exceeded his authority by using the 1977 International Economic Emergency Act, or IEEPA, to slap global tariffs on everything.
I love how the liberals are acting like this is some massive defeat, but look at the reality check. Chief Justice Roberts, along with Gorsuch and Barrett, basically said, Article 1 belongs to Congress. They're saying the president can't just use a general emergency law to levy taxes, which tariffs essentially are.
But listen to me, Gorsuch is a major questions doctrine guy. He's saying if it's this big of a deal, Congress has to do it. The liberals think they won because they slowed him down, but they don't understand how the hammer works.
Exactly. Roberts' quote was that the administration was trying to build a power based on two words separated by 16 others, regulate and importation. And he said the Constitution cannot bear such weight. Basically, the court is telling Trump, if you want to move the entire economy, you have to go through the people's representatives.
And hours later, the president signs a new executive order for a 10% global tariff using Section 232 national security powers. That's a different legal lever. It triggers a 150-day countdown.
He's playing three-dimensional chess while they're playing checkers in the faculty lounge. By using the national security lever, he's basically telling the court, okay, if you want me to be specific, I'm being specific. It's about the industrial base. It's about our ability to defend ourselves. And now the clock is ticking for Congress.
150 days. The midterms are coming. Every single one of those globalist-funded congressmen now has to go on the record. Do you vote for the American worker and the tariff, or do you vote for your donors in the shipping lobby and the CCP-subsidized factories?
It's a brilliant political trap, and honey, I can already see the campaign ads. Why did your congressman vote to protect Chinese steel instead of American jobs? It's going to be a bloodbath for anyone who tries to block this.
They're in a panic. I have the documents from the trade analysts. They're saying this Section 232 move is much harder for the court to strike down because it's tied to the national defense strategy. You can't have a military if you don't have a steel mill. You can't have a country if you're dependent on your enemies for your microchips.
Right, and it's just common sense. Why are we letting the Supreme Court or a bunch of bureaucrats in D.C. tell us that we aren't allowed to protect our own economy?
It's the cudgel of the people.
It really is. And look at the broader picture here. The court is trying to reassert constitutional order. And the president is saying, fine, I'll use your constitutional order to smoke out the traitors in Congress. He's forcing them to take the floor, to debate, to show the American people whose side they really are on.
They want to hide. They want to hide in the subcommittees. But this Section 232 countdown forces a floor vote. It's the brain force of political strategy. It's pure, raw energy dominance in the legislative branch.
You're getting worked up. But you're right. It's fascinating to watch the Plan B pivot happen in real time. The mainstream media was already popping champagne bottles yesterday, thinking they'd stopped the Trump trade war. And by dinner time, the tariffs were back on the menu.
They don't want you to know this. The global markets are reeling because they realize the Trump train doesn't have a brake pedal. It only has an accelerator. And this 150-day window is going to be the most intense period of lobbying and political warfare we've seen in a century.
Well, I'm here for it. I'm ready for the reality check, because at the end of the day, if we aren't protecting our borders and our factories, what are we even doing?
We're becoming a colony, a debt slave colony of the globalist vampire state, but not today, not on our watch.
Definitely not today. Look, we've covered the Great Purge at the CIA, the energy realism at the EPA, the medical common sense in our hospitals, and this massive tariff showdown. It is a solid show for a Saturday morning.
It's a battle plan. Listen to me. The truth is your only weapon. And before we go, let me tell you, real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, The Neural Daily, exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. Now, if you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. Support the builder, and you support the mission.
Exactly. Build the world you want to live in. Well, that's our time for today. I'm Diane Albright. I'm gonna finish this wine and maybe go find a PTA meeting to disrupt.
And I'm Ray the Hammer Miller. The documents are real. The fight is now. Stay frosty, stay faithful, and for the love of everything holy, get off the grid if you can.
We'll see you tomorrow. Stay patriotic, everyone.
150 days.